It's week.
Hang on a second. Stop it right now because we've got that much to talk about. Let's just get straight into it, Nick. We can't stuff around anymore. A big thank you to Ping. I tell you, their ongoing support. Now I'm watching Ping players everywhere on TV. They are everywhere at the moment. And a big welcome to the Golf Clearance Outlet onto Talk Birdie to me. Big thanks to Sam Colosimo. Golf's biggest brands for less. You can find them in Victoria, WA, Brisbane, Sydney, and they're coming to Adelaide in 2024. And Nick, I know you like going shopping on the internet. If you can't get to one of their stores, just go to golfclearanceoutlet.com.au.
And I heard that they're making golf great again.
Yes, they are. Anyway, fantastic. I've been to a few stores. Absolutely brilliant. You can do all kinds of stuff in there. Nick, the Ryder Cup was out of control.
It was so good. Only this golf tournament, it just produces some of those moments that man. You just shake your head a little, but you also go, this is awesome. We need more of it.
Yeah.
None more so than Joe LaCava.
We'll get to Joe.
Okay.
Can we get to Joe? How about just the first morning of play?
Yeah.
Europe, 4-0. Whoosh.
It set the tone, didn't it? And a genius move, by the way, Luke Donald, switching the formats, because the four ball is the best ball where they all hit.
Yeah.
Foursomes is the alternate. Typically, in past years, it's always been four ball as the opening matches. Yeah. He switched it because foursomes is Europe's strength.
Number one.
No doubt, and they came out flying. And look, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but the preparation and the detail Europe went into their team and the way they put everything together, the statistician, they brought on Eduardo Molinari, Dodo as they call him, who works with a lot of players out on tour. All these small details just added up to that perfect start to day one, and at the end of the day, they had a 5-point lead, and guess how many they won by? Five points.
Just on Molinari, who is the stats guru these days, and like you said, so many players are employing him to look at their stats.
Francesco's brother.
So I was reading that he actually had a look at both teams and saw where all their misses were.
Mm-hmm.
And he mowed tightly the areas where he suspected the Americans would miss greens more. So, for instance, if he had a look at the entire American team and he saw that from 150 yards plus, up to 250 yards, their miss was on the left, then they went to the detail of mowing really short grass on the left and alerting the European players to those misses. That is just extraordinary in my book.
You've got to use whatever advantage you can get. They didn't actually manufacture this golf course. They set it up how they normally would do it. A couple of things that they did, the European team, which was so smart, is they moved the rope lines back about 5 yards from where they normally are, because you know how players, they hit it offline and it's in the trampled down stuff,
and it's as good as a good lie.
It's not too bad. So they understood that the Americans were a little longer and they're a fraction more wayward, and they're going to be in trouble 10 yards off. But if they're 15 yards, which is where the rough usually thins out, well, they moved the rope line back beyond that, so that all of a sudden they got some bad lies out there. And the other thing was they also found that US were very strong in that area of wedge, 80 to 125, 150 yards.
Yep.
So the short par fours, which are typical 2-iron wedge that they play in the Italian Open, they made them drivable par fours.
So good.
All of a sudden, the advantage is on the accurate driver that they could all reach.
Yeah.
And it just played beautifully into their hands.
Well, now, my question to you, with the foursomes going first, so the alternate shot going first, why has it taken this long for a captain to look at this? I mean,
it's very true.
I wonder if it's Molinari who's gone, hey, listen, I've had a look at everything here. You're going to get off to a good start if you put the alternate shot first.
Maybe they didn't realise. And they've gone, hang on, we can actually...
We can do whatever we like.
Yeah, because last time in France, the Americans got off to a hot start. I think they were 3-1 in, or it wasn't 4-0, but it was a very handy lead. The other thing that really revved Europe up was Victor Hovland went out with your buddy.
Yeah. Say his name properly.
Ludwig Åberg. Åberg, is that correct?
Yeah, that's good enough for me. But
okay.
We're going to play something a little bit later.
Okay.
In fact, we might as well play it now. This is we put it out there. I actually had some homework last week, and my friend Steve Long, who used to be an Australian Tour player, is the short game coach at Texas Tech, where Ludwig plays. So I just sent him a text message. How do you pronounce Ludwig's last name? And I put the little dot on top of the Aberg, all right, just so he had an idea that we were being serious.
Yep.
He just came back with, mate, it's Aberg. It's as simple as that. And then, miraculously, in the lead up to the Ryder Cup, they're having some fun like they do on the European Tour socials. They're very, very good on those socials.
The content was incredible.
Incredible. And they got Ludwig, basically, they got everyone to have a crack at it, and it was funny. And then at the very end, they said, hey, Luddy, how do you actually say your name? And here it is.
So this actually was also sent in by Dr. John Oliver Dunn, who is the guy who picked us up last week on the pronunciation.
Good on you, Doc.
So here's the audio that we've got of Ludwig saying how to pronounce his name.
My last name is a little bit different too, because the letter is different. There's usually a little circle above the A, which pronounces a little bit different. So in Swedish, I would say Ludwig Åberg, but here it goes Ludwig Åberg.
Yeah. So Ludwig Åberg he's happy with in America.
Yep.
But it's almost like an Uberg.
Ludwig Åberg. I don't know what was going on there, but
nobody can say that.
The other guy who I could never pronounce his name after he said it during that European content piece was Nikolai Højgaard.
Yeah.
He said something I thought, that doesn't even sound like his name.
No. It sounded like he had a cold. That's what it sounded like to me. It was hopeless.
But anyway, on that first green, Victor Hovland went out with Ludwig, and Victor, by the way, hit the chip shot that we've been talking about the previous week about his action.
You were watching.
He was on the fringe. He wasn't in the long grass. It looked like, it was almost like I'm being on the putting green. He takes the wedge and gets the little Gabriel Hörsted forward lean. I was watching it, and he chips it in, and the whole place went nuts. And that set the tone for the whole day.
Tell me this, Nick. Yeah, obviously where they've mown it really nice and short, because the Americans are used to being able to slip the club underneath the ball when they chip, just on their ryegrass. And the really tight stuff is, it's not everybody. It's a very hard chip to make, even for the best players, and particularly when your hands are shaking, and it's got to be such a perfect connection. But I did notice that when they put the pin close to the back of the green, it was really long grass over the back most of the time. Now, I played a little bit in America. But I never really played a lot where the rough was long next to the green. Is it that the hardest shot out of the long grass when you got a small shot?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's about judging how the ball's going to come out. The thing you notice about that long grass over the back of every green, it was laying in all different directions.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it lays one way. So you kind of go, well, I'm into the grain, I'm down grain. But there I noticed it was what they call like a bird's nest. The ball was just sitting and the grass was going everywhere, and it was very tough to judge how it was going to come out in that regard. But that's what they do in the States. They grow the rough up right next to the greens, and it's not much fun. You just grab the lob wedge and hope for the best.
Well, I was going to say, early masterclass, if you ever find yourself in America and you're in one of these lies, I used to just try and play it like a bunker shot with loose hands. That's how I was told to play it. What method did you use?
So when I first went to the States, I kind of went with the lean into my front leg, my right leg, and hit down on it and things like that. And it was a bit of a guessing game. And then I lived at Isleworth, and there was a guy there called Lee Jansen who happened to be a two-time US Open major champion, and you need to hit these sorts of shots out of the rough. And I picked his brain one day because I was watching him practice out of this long Bermuda stuff next to the chipping green. Yeah. And he had this like open face, pretty wide stance, but he had like a hooking action, and he was coming into the ball really shallow, and that surprised me.
He was trying to hook it out of the long grass.
Well, it was a hooking action with an open face, and I just watched him hit this, and it came out soft and high every time. And he said, that's just the way I do it, and it works really well for me. So I started experimenting it, and I implemented it in my game, and it was phenomenal. The other guy who was really good at it was Freddie Couples, and he had that long, languid, he'd almost take one hand off the club as it went through the ball. I wasn't a big fan of that because the club face could get wrapped up by the grass and shut and everything like that. But there are different ways to do it. You just got to figure out the one that works for you.
Well, when you're cutting across the ball, I think you can have the open, loose hands a little bit more than if you're coming from the inside. Coming from the inside, it can really go across. But coming from the outside, you can have the loose hands like Freddie.
Exactly. No, Freddie was one of the best in that regard. But I love you know what I loved also about that first tee? the practice swings.
Oh, yeah.
And the crowd's
Way!
going, way!
Hey! Yeah, that was really good.
And they were
Very good.
singing songs, Hey Jude, and I mean, even on the last day, I think it was Rory McIllroy came out to play Sam Burns, and they were all singing the Zombie song.
Yeah.
And instead of What's in Your Head, they're going, He's in Your Head. It was just classic. They did such a good job on that first team. Nicholas Colsart's one of the assistant captains for Europe. He was leading the charge the whole way. It was brilliant.
Well, let's move on to Joe LaCava. Now, if you're new to golf and you don't know who Joe LaCava is, he used to caddy for Freddie Couples, then he used to caddy for Tiger Woods. These days, he's a member at Los Angeles Country Club with Patrick Cantlay, and these days he is now caddying for Patrick. The video I saw at the start, I was like, I don't know. The really good video that showed you everything was shameful. I thought what Joe LaCava was doing out there on the last hole, trying to drum up support for the crowd to try and, I don't know, start cheering to put somebody off. I understand you want the crowd to be on your side, but I don't think it's a caddy or a player to try and drum up that sort of stuff on the last hole.
I have a feeling, look, they were copping it all day long. There was obviously some comments that came out the previous day from a journalist over there in Europe, Jamie Weir, who is a well-known journalist, and he said, I have it from reliable sources that, Cantlay is not wearing the hat because he wants to be paid for this event. And look, team golf, there's always been this controversy around being paid and should you or shouldn't you. I've never wanted to be paid to play President's Cup, and the Ryder Cup players, the Europeans, they never talk about money. No. It only ever really comes from the American side, and there's a debate to be had all around that sort of thing. I mean, we were very fortunate in that they gave us enough money to cover airfare, so we wanted to fly family over. So you get a stipend, a nice stipend, which covers all your expenses. Yeah. And then you get a charitable contribution.
Which was about 50,000,
No, I think it was, I'm thinking at least 100 when I played.
Wow.
And the charities, I used to spread it around a different one. Ronald McDonald House and things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
You didn't have to
Didn't have to be one. No, it didn't have to be one.
That's sensational.
And yeah.
But if you're about to tell the Carlos Frecko story, I knew it. I knew it.
No.
I'll tell it.
Okay.
I'm happy to tell it.
I thought, should I tell this?
I'll tell it.
You go.
I'll tell it. So back then it was 50,000 US. It was 1998. Everybody nominated their charity of choice, and there were some beauties. And Carlos Frecko's was a charity that nobody had ever heard of before. Ever before. I'll just leave it at that.
I think I know where that was
going. That's all I need to say. That's all I need to say.
Yeah. But
anyway.
Look, now hats.
I still can't get over that one.
Going back to this Joe LaCava thing, I mean, hats off to funnily enough, hats off to Patrick Cantlay for how he played under all that scrutiny. They would have been copping some pretty good abuse all day. I understand all that. It's part of the Ryder Cup, and it's all in good fun and good jest. I hate to think in a couple of years' time in New York what the European players are going to be up for, because that's a different kind of abuse. They will tell you to F off and do whatever, whereas Europe, it's more of a playful type thing, I find. And it can get over the line every now and then, but I'm sure they copped a lot of abuse. And on the 18th green, LaCava just thought, no, stuff this. I'm gonna get my cap and I'm going to wave. And then I think he knew that Rory was, that's where his marker was.
Yeah.
And he just took too long, and he just kept walking towards him. And then Rory said, "Hey, what are you doing? Back away!" And then Rory kind of forgot and started lining his putt up. And then Joe went back in, and he wanted to have a chat with him. And it's like, no, you don't do that. So
get out, and he knows better.
Poor form in that regard.
He knows better.
Joe, I know Joe, and he's a nice guy, but that's just something that all caddies know you do not do.
Yeah. Now, apparently he's went face to face with Rory and some of the other team members, and they've all shaken hands and agreed to move on. And mistakes get made in the heat of the moment. We get that, but that still was astonishing that somebody could walk onto the middle of a green and start doing that when a point, or half a point at that stage was up for grabs.
Rory wasn't happy about it.
Well, let's talk about Rory. I don't reckon Rory carrying on like a grade 3 kid at lunchtime. I reckon he was looking around at one stage hoping that somebody would hold him back.
Larry was there, don't worry.
Yeah, they'll hold me back. And who was Bones? Was it Bones in front of him? Bones, Phil Mickelson's famous caddy?
I think basically Rory just wanted to let off steam, and the first person, it just happens to be one of the nicest guys, Bones, that the first American that he saw in the car park, he just let him have it and said it was an effing disgrace and all this sort of thing. And I'm sure he regrets those words, but even in the press conference after when they won, you could still see he was thinking about it. And it was quite bizarre in that regard. But, it's going to be, 30 years that the US haven't won on European soil. Now it's going to be 34 when they get to Adair Manor in Ireland in 4 years' time. But I think the difference and what summed it all up for me was I watched both press conferences, and Scotty Scheffler gave an answer of, this is one of my favourite tournaments of the year. Rory said, this is the best event you will ever play as a professional as a golfer.
Sums up
that sums up everything right there. They live and breathe and will die for this thing. Well, they won't die for it, but they will bleed for it. Whereas the US, they see it as a great event, and they're just not quite fully invested. US soil, look, they'd obviously do well because of the various factors that go there with the home team and everything, but the Europeans, it's so fun to watch.
Does it surprise you, though? Because they've come up through high school golf, which is team. They've come up through college golf, which is team. And a lot of the Europeans, unless, of course, they went to college, they would have only experienced team at a very basic level, which might have been playing for England or playing for their country, which happens, once or twice a year, if you're lucky, or maybe playing pennant at your golf club, which happens, nothing on the scale and the organisation of college golf. Nothing where you got a full-time coach, you're playing tournaments all year round, nothing. So it really surprises me that the American team feel this way. I mean, they're only 90%ers. Well, to me, where I feel like the European, they're 100%ers. We're in.
They're all in, and they have the history. The players can tell you. Look, Seve and Faldo and Monty and the history there. The US players, they rarely talk about past players because I don't think they really know who was one of their best, Ryder Cup players and that sort of thing. And the preparation as well was very off from the US. A lot of the players hadn't played in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas the entire, European team had just played Wentworth and they'd all played really well. And they had this, the US had this scouting trip and they said, we all bonded and everything. It was fantastic. There was only 9 out of the 12 that came along.
That's right.
How does that work?
Some of them missed the practice days.
Yeah.
Just stunning.
And then you had the difference between the captains. You had Luke Donald, who at the opening ceremony, who was talking in Italian. I mean, that was just so endearing, and he spoke eloquently. And then Zach Johnson was kind of fumbling around in all his press conferences, and it just did not. No. It wasn't the leadership they were looking for, unfortunately.
Can we go and do a really quick early Ping Global results and just have a look at the players and what they actually did? Because I've got it right here.
Okay, I've got a few notes as well. Yeah.
So Rory McIllroy, 4 wins, just the 1 loss.
Yep.
And leading the European team with all the controversy, I thought was just outstanding.
Yeah, most points out of everyone. It was 4 points. It was incredible.
Okay. Tyrrell Hatton, the little bulldog.
Ping player.
There you go. Ping player. 3 wins, 1 half. Didn't have a loss.
Yep.
Victor Hovland.
Ping player.
3 wins, no losses in a half. Tommy Fleetwood, 3 wins and 1 loss. John Rahm didn't have a loss. 2 wins and 2 halves.
He was big in that opening session because he took Højgaard under his wing as well, and they got a half, I think, in the afternoon 4 balls on day 1, and that was huge for Højgaard just to settle him down. It was really good. And
the performance for the Americans too. This surprised me because I just, obviously it was a pretty big grand final weekend for so many people, and I was trying to keep an eye on the Mighty Pies on Saturday, so I missed a lot of it. But Max Homa, 3 wins and a half and a loss. So he got 3.5 points for the Americans. He doesn't he obviously a competitive beast.
Yeah, he is. No, for sure. He played really well in the President's Cup, and this is his first Ryder Cup. He was by far the best out of them.
And then the next 2 on the list, they both had 2 wins and 2 losses. So just 2 points. So the top three on the American team only won 7 points for America. And when I say the top 3, not the top 3 best players, the actual top 3 performers for the Americans only won 3 points, and that's unusual.
Well, I mean, day 1, 6.5 to 1.5 was the lead, and US had to make a statement on that Saturday morning in the opening foursomes. Brooks Koepka and Scotty Scheffler lose 9 and 7, the biggest margin in the history of the Ryder Cup. Now, unfortunately, that's just sending completely the wrong message. And we knew kind of then, look, it's over.
Yeah.
Although, in the singles, they got to a stage there at one point. I thought,
Yeah.
hang on.
I was watching early days on the singles, and there was a lot of blue on
Lot
the
of blue,
leaderboard. And I
yep.
thought, well, I'll go to sleep here, and I'm going to wake up, and it's going to be an enormous victory. And when I woke up and had a look at the scores, it wasn't. It was 6-all in the singles.
In the singles, yeah.
Yeah.
But Europe were leading 14-7 at one point, and then they got it back to 14-11-ish or something. But there was a lot of red down the bottom, and McIntyre had a putt. I think the last two matches, if they could have turned those, the US could have actually done it. But then, obviously, what happened with Fleetwood defeating Fowler, and it was all over, and it was party time.
We got a tweet a couple of days ago, or yesterday, from Chris Payne, who watched a bunch of the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Talk Birdie listener. And he said, Scheffler and Koepka getting absolutely flogged and shooting +7 for 11 holes. I would never have picked that in a million years. And I reckon he might be spot on. I mean, who saw that coming?
+7. I didn't. I thought it was more the other way, that the two boys from.
I thought it was 8 over, actually, but it could have been 7 over.
There you go. There you go.
They played horrific.
Oh, wow.
It was horrible golf.
No wonder Scheffler was crying.
Oh.
I mean, well, he wasn't crying. He was tearing up.
Yeah,
there were tears coming down his face. I'm not going to say he was crying, but he was certainly cut.
Yeah,
cut in half.
And the crowd let him know it when he came onto the tee too. In the singles, they started singing. Oh god!
Just on Aberg as well. I mean, he's
Aberg.
becoming. Thank you. He's becoming a bit of a favourite on this show, and that's because of his Texas Tech background and everything else. 2 wins,
two wins,
two
losses.
2 losses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got pretty much cleaned up by Brooks Koepka in the singles, who just played really well. I was looking through some of the single scores, and there was a lot of guys shooting 5-6 under. It was impressive, but you know who was the best out of the lot? Rory McIllroy. And he was a bit of a worry after what happened in the car park, and he might have got a bit too emotional. He shot 8 under through 17 or 16 holes. I mean, that is some golf.
What do you make of, and this is the last one, because I'm just looking at Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler was the worst performed of all the players, but there was a sickness, there was a health issue going through the American team. Only played twice out of 5 possibles. I guess I'm going to say he was sick.
Well, in the press conference after day one, again, Zach Johnson says, he was basically trying to say this is not an excuse, but it is an excuse.
Yeah, it's a reason.
Yeah,
not an excuse. It's a reason.
We're very happy we've got a good team doctor, is what he said.
Yeah.
So maybe they should have sent him out as his replacement.
And I reckon Koepka was a bit crook as well. I think that's
really.
I think Koepka's Getty is where it all came from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you read between the lines of some of the social media stuff that's out there from people who you trust. I did see, what's his name? The American broadcaster. He got a hold of Cantlay afterwards. Steve Sands?
Steve Sands, yeah.
Steve Sands. Steve Sands got Cantlay behind the 18th green. The Ryder Cup had been won, and asked Cantlay a few questions about the week. He was brilliant. Cantlay was sensational.
Yep,
I'll really give him some credit here. He was fantastic. He said, "What about all the people? The way they were giving it to you the whole way." He goes, "Look, I don't expect it to be any different. This is the way the Ryder Cup is." And he's basically saying, when it goes back to America, it's the same thing that happens. But when I come here, I expect it. He asked Cantlay about the money.
Mm-hmm.
He asked him about it, and Cantlay denied it. The way he denied it, I believe Cantlay.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't see that
I
interview.
believed it.
Yep.
I believed it. The way he said it, the way the question was phrased, the way it was asked, I wasn't expecting it. I was waiting to, I was looking for anything I could hang my hat on saying, oh, he wanted the cash.
You were looking for the politician's answer.
I was.
Yeah.
I was looking for anything, any hint that he was telling a porky pie.
Okay.
But I couldn't get it.
Okay.
I couldn't get one bit. So well done to Patrick Cantlay on the way he handled himself. And also the way he played, because he played brilliant golf with all that going around him, and he did it without a hat.
Did you see the picture that Brooks Koepka posted as well?
No.
Afterwards?
No.
So it's all over social media.
Yes, I did. The LIV.
And what was it again?
The LIV shirts, and he had 4 of the boys.
Team Smash, I believe.
Yeah. So he had Fowler, Xander, 2 others, Burns. Maybe one other, or wearing the Smash shirt
there we
from
are.
LIV.
Yeah, I've got it. And Max Homer, which
And
is a little
Maxie.
surprising.
Yeah.
Because
that's good, mate.
Well, I know Max was a very staunch opposition to the LIV golf and things like that. That actually really surprised me. And his caption was, "I make money moves."
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I like. You know what? when there was a fracture in the world of golf and LIV turned up, I was really worried for the game, and there was concern. I didn't like it. I wanted everyone playing together and playing against each other because good for golf.
For sure.
I also think that's good for golf with where we're all going.
Yeah.
I mean, the agreement to agree is still just hanging out there, and there hasn't been any news on the LIV schedule for next year. I think the PGA Tour schedule's out, but maybe not the ones after the season. I'll check that at our 9-hole break. Look, it's interesting. It's interesting where it's all poised, but I don't think that picture is a bad thing for getting everybody back on, track again.
Yeah.
And seeing the best play the best.
There will be a lot of commentary about, maybe they should have had Bryson DeChambeau and Taylor Gooch and these guys playing as well. So, it's neither here nor there. The captains get their picks. Unfortunately, they didn't perform for Zach. And then on the flip side, the European picks, they performed quite nicely. They weren't outstanding, but they were solid.
Just before you guys wrap up on the Ryder Cup and we go to the turn, Tim Clark messaged in and said, "Hey, Nick and Mark, are these the best greens we've ever seen, the condition of them, Augusta included? I haven't seen a putt wobble the whole 2 days."
Yeah, this is a great question because there's only, 12 players basically every day. So, maybe 20 players, caddies, each day. So the greens have a wonderful opportunity to actually stay beautiful. It's in a full field of players where there are heel marks from not only the players but also caddies, pitch marks from a lot of shots hitting the greens. That's why Friday evening at a tournament when you're trying to make the cut on these rotten-looking things.
Yeah, try and do it on Poana grass late in the day. It's shocking.
Yeah.
We saw the same thing last week at the Solheim Cup. The greens there were absolutely pure because you're right, Mark. You only get, 8 players the first 2 days in the morning and in the afternoon, and they change the pins. The greens are so big, so you're seeing areas which are obviously very rarely stepped on, and I can't almost fault Tim on that regard. They were absolutely pure.
Yeah.
Whether they were the best around, that's up for debate.
And just his question on Augusta, even better than Augusta. There are lots of tournaments I've been to where the greens are better than Augusta.
Well, yeah, Augustas are pretty impressive. I'll tell you that. The thing about Augusta is the slopes. There's so much more slope on them that you can't see.
Hey, I do want to bring one thing up, Nick, and this is something that hits home to me.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Oakley for a long, long time. I went to Oakley Tech, and I know the Oakley Public Golf Course. It's a short little 9-hole golf course. Sandy Jamison is the local pro there, and what Sandy Jamison does to grow the game of golf in that particular area, doesn't matter what background you're from, he does an amazing job.
Yeah, he has the one club scenario going on out
one
there for
club
everyone
stuff.
Starting.
Yeah, he's got. He's got to a point now where he teaches a lot of handicapped people one way or the other. He's now got to the stage where handicapped golfers are teaching handicapped new players.
Wow.
He's done so much. He reliably tells me that this golf course has never been busier since he's been there. So a lot of people are playing this course. The city of Stonington has lined this joint up and they want to close it down.
Oh, no.
When you look at a map of Stonington and you can see how much green space is already available there, why they want to turn this into more green space, it's obviously dollars, has got me stuffed. I don't understand how a council can look at what they've got. And at this, in this one, we've got green space and we've got golf courses.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to reduce your assets for just a tiny little spend? You and I both know how important golf is for so many people because from these little golf courses, you graduate to other places and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you start at Oakley, you might go to Huntingdale, and then, when you get old, you go back to Oakley.
Go back to Oakley.
Go back to Oakley because it's cheap and easy and it's short and all the rest of it. Golf for mental health, for physical fitness, for staying social is so bloody important and it is just, in my view, so Bloody ridiculous.
I couldn't agree with you more. I grew up playing what was called the Embleton Golf Course, a little 9-hole par 3s, par 4s in Perth.
Yep.
Then I also played Hawke Valley. I played a number of different public courses around the traps, and without those courses, I would never have been able to go on to forge some sort of a career. And the other thing is, it builds these friendships over time, and you meet all these different people, and you're only paying $10 or $20 or whatever it is. Now, I'm not sure if this is is it a COVID thing where what was the other golf course where
Northcote.
They wanted to turn that into something.
Yeah, they tried to. They ended up taking land from Northcote, and again, I know a bloke who runs it. The land they took is not being used.
Really?
So what happened in COVID is that they opened Northcote up. You couldn't play golf there, but you could walk around there.
Yeah. Malvern was the same.
Yeah, so you could go for a walk.
Yep.
And when all these people from Northcote have come in and gone, wow, have a look at this, then the people on the council have gone, well, how come just golfers get to use this? Well, the answer is because they pay.
Yeah.
They pay money to help it stay like this. Anyway, they've carved off a big piece of land at Northcote, got rid of one of the holes.
Okay.
Nobody uses that.
Really?
Not enough to justify what they did.
Okay.
There was an interesting response to that comment you made on Twitter from a lady who was talking about her young fella who's playing there, and she was saying, look, he pays $400 a year to play basketball, or he pays $14 to play 9 holes at Oakley. Now, if he can't pay $14 to play 9 holes at Oakley, he may not be able to afford to pay $50 to play somewhere else.
That's right.
He might be lost to the game.
Of course. Of course you are. What would you prefer? Just to have a golf course in the area. I don't get it. I feel for Sandy Jamison.
Let's hope it doesn't go through.
Let's hope these people at the council have a second think about this, because I think it's earmarked to go.
Really?
Yep. And let me tell you this. They were sending out a link to jump onto to talk about and give your version of why they should keep it or why they should, get rid of it.
Okay.
The link didn't work. So, what do you do?
Yeah.
Was it by design? Let's hope not. Fingers crossed. But you can't have that stuff. You can't do that sort of stuff and have that not working and not fix it straight away. Anyway, there's my rant.
Okay. Well, if it's a 9-hole course, we're coming up to the turn, and we'll go back and play the next 9.
Let me get a party pie and I'll calm down. I'll see you on the 10th tee.
You're like Rory at the car park.
Hold me back, Nick. Hold me back.
Like the podcast? Oh, maybe tell a friend. Drop them a text or share it on your socials. This is Talk Birdie to Me with Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen.
Hold me back, Nick. Hold me back.
I will.
Hold me back.
I'll be Larry trying to drag you off bones.
I've just had a look at the schedule, the PGA Tour schedule for next year. Mm-hmm. It finishes at the Tour Championship.
Okay.
So not only we don't know what's happening with LIV in 2024, not yet, but we don't know what happens post-season, where we know that there was talk about post-season tournaments internationally with big purses and no cuts.
Yep.
So that's not out there yet. I imagine the agreement to agree is going to be nutted out pretty soon. So they would have said, let's get rid of this Ryder Cup. Let's all sit down, break bread, and make this thing work.
Yeah, they got to the end of the year. We'll see.
We will see. You sound sceptical. Are you sceptical?
I'm a little sceptical.
I'm not. I think it's going to work. I think they're going to get it done.
All right.
Now we just heard the voicemail thing go off.
Okay.
We might have a caller.
Let's go.
All right.
Righto.
You have one new voicemail. New message.
Hey guys, great pod. I'm Neil Canton, a Canadian 9 handicapper playing at Rose Bay Golf Club in Townsville, North Queensland. I learn a lot listening to the way you guys think about golf, and from your book, Nick, Play Your Best Golf. Excellent read. My question's inspired by watching all the great match play golf that's going on with the Solheim and Ryder Cups right now. With our club pennant golf matches coming up and happening, keen to hear your coaching tips for match play strategy, particularly how to handle swings in momentum, how to play and match great shots, and sink the key putts when it matters most to close out the match for a win.
Nice work, Neil.
Mm.
Righto, I'm just handing it straight to you because, mate, if you can beat Tiger Woods twice in match play, I'm not qualified at this table to talk about match play.
Well, Neil, 9 handicapper. Congratulations, single figures. A Canadian, so he's probably left-handed. A lot of Canadians are left-handed.
Why is that?
I think it's to do with ice hockey, I believe.
Maybe.
They play a lot of ice hockey over there. So
Yeah, righto.
and I think, do they play? Anyway, I'm
Anyway.
not sure. But I'm a big believer in body language and sort of asserting yourself on the match. That's a real key. Even when you're not playing well, act as though you are, one of the best players in the world out there. I always find that's a great thing to do. Whenever I look over at my opponent and they're dragging their feet going, why is the world against me? I'm thinking, I've just got them right where I want them.
Was Tiger dragging his feet?
No, he wasn't.
Was Tiger kicking the Coke can around? You got to a couple
a couple of little tricks I used to do as well. I mean, and the big thing really I find in match play is you want the tee. And what I mean by that is you want to hit off first if possible because you dictate terms.
Yeah.
You get to apply pressure to your opponent. Now, for me, being a shorter hitter, I found that as an advantage because I was always hitting my second shots into greens first. So then I could apply the pressure in that regard. So even if you're down in the match, just try and win one hole if you possibly can. That way you tee off on the next and hit it down the fairway. Keep the pressure on them. It's all about keeping and applying that pressure. And there will be swings in momentum and things like that. So just be prepared for things to go pear-shaped. I was always a big believer. If I was on the green 20 feet away and they were in the bunker, I was thinking they're going to hold this. I'm going to need to really lock in and make a good stroke on my putt here and things like that. So be prepared for the unexpected. And then at the end of the day, work on your short game because as we saw in the Ryder Cup, it's all about putting and the short game.
Mate, how annoying is it when you hit that quite well and you're playing against some bloke or some lady and they just keep on getting up and down? It does your head in. So it's a great weapon, a short game in match play.
Is. Yeah, all the best. But the best short game players in the world are all great putters. That's what I find. So
good on you, Neil.
Work on the short game, and thanks Neil for the question. Brilliant.
Now, if you want to leave a voicemail, easy to do. Go to talkbirdie2b.com.au and there's a little button there that says start recording. Send the message through and we'll get you on the pod.
It's our favourite, actually.
It's
I really like it.
Yep.
I really like it.
Speaking of the callers, we have another caller here, Steve, who has a story about Ian Baker Finch he wants to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So should we give him a call?
Yeah, let's go.
Steve speaking.
Hey, Steve, it's Mark Allen and Nick O'Hearn. You're on Talk Birdie to Me podcast.
Oh, how are we going, fellas? All right?
Yeah, we're really
Very well.
Steve. You got a question for us?
I certainly do, actually. I was having a reflection time after the podcast a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Lexi Thompson's chipping action, and it took me back to when I was a junior in Gippsland region at Geelong Golf Club, actually. Popped in on a Sunday morning and actually saw an article on in the men's locker room from Ian Baker Finch, and was talking just about how to chip and actually using that word in your action and setup, meaning H for hands forward, O for the open stance, and then W for weight forward. And that moment, I actually went out and started to try chipping that way. And 35 years later, I'm actually still using that to this day and have just recently passed it on to my 16-year-old son who's just taken up the game.
I love that, Steve. That's really, that's basically old school, really, isn't it? I mean, hands forward, weight on the left side. Open the club face.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
That's how I did it.
Yeah, that's how we all did it basically back in the day. Now there are varying things that come along, which people will trend towards, I guess you could say, with Victor Hovland at the moment. But hey, if it works for you, just continue to do that because that's really the key in this game. It doesn't matter how you're getting the ball in the hole as long as you do it. So. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
And Finchy was one of the best, by the way,
greats.
around and on the greens.
I'll tell you a story about Finchy and his short game, Stevie. There was the New South Wales Open, and I reckon it was 1985 is when I first started watching golf on TV. It was played at the Lakes, and the greens were rock hard. I'm talking Royal Melbourne rock hard.
Beautiful.
Finchy was the only bloke who could stop the ball on the greens. Now,
really?
Yeah, they probably would have checked his grooves these days. But he had the best chipping and wedge action you've ever seen, and he just dominated this field, won by a long, long way. And it was all because of the way he chipped.
Absolutely, and it's just something that stuck with me for such a long time, playing the game for over 35 years. And I just thought, well, after Lexi's, demons that she's got, I thought, well, you know what? It's keep it simple, as I say, and it's works to this day.
Well, may you never get the Lexis. Hey, Stevie, where do you play?
I actually live on the Gold Coast and playing at Coolangatta Tweed at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Been a member there for about 7 years, and originally started the game in country Victoria.
I went to qualifying school there back in the day on
Did
the
you?
Australasian tour, in the mid-90s.
Is the golf ball still up on the roof?
Yeah.
It's had a clean and a new paint job, so it's looking quite slick.
It's a great track. I loved it up there. So.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
He's
thanks,
a
Steve.
good man, Steve. Hey, very, very good. And teaching old school chipping, it still works. You don't have to use the bounce, folks. If you feel like you got hands of gold,
Hey.
you do not have to use the bounce. You can do
use
it
the
old
leading
school.
edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can do whatever you want.
All right, this is from H.G. Roberts. Now, H.G. Roberts has written in about your Ryder Cup team that you guys named, your Aussie Ryder Cup team
Oh.
that you named last week.
I
How
thought
historic.
Yeah.
I actually thought we'd cop some abuse for this one.
No, it's not abusive.
No?
at all.
Okay.
No, it's good.
No way.
HG said, awesome episode. Love listening over here in Wales.
Ooh.
A couple of missed possibles in the all-time Aussie Ryder Cup team.
yeah.
What about Kel Nagle
Yes.
and Jason Day?
Oh,
I was thinking about Kel after we did it, actually. I thought, how did I miss Kel?
well,
And Jason, obviously.
we
Hell of
could
a
have had
player.
we could have had Kel in there as vice captain to
No.
Norman Von Nyder, couldn't we?
No, he's got to be playing.
Yeah, I guess.
The hard thing is who do
You win
pull
the
out?
Open.
He won the
You,
100th.
you pull
Open.
me out, is what you do.
No, you
Oh,
don't do
that's
that.
right. Well, maybe you could be vice captain.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
And Jason Day, surely we put Jason Day in there. Surely we
Can we
did.
have 14-man teams?
I reckon we can.
We'll have a few. Yeah, we'll have a playoff.
I think we
see if
can.
you get in.
We posted a video this week on Facebook. It was about 30 seconds long, and this is how it sounded.
O'Hearn set to join a very small list of the players who have beaten Tiger.
It's a lovely speed, and thank you, and good night, Tiger. O'Hearn knocked Tiger from the match play 2 years ago. Can he do it again?
So we had a bit of feedback on that. Matt Breen said, I could watch that all day. And somebody else said, brilliant memories. That's from someone called Joe O'Hearn.
That would be my mother sending that in. Beautiful. Thanks,
Good on
Mum.
you, Joe, Mrs.
Yeah.
O'Hearn.
I could actually watch that all day too.
Oh, you're still fist pumping when the.
Oh, yeah. It brought back some memories.
I love it. Good on you.
Franco Caruso has written in, hey, gents, love the podcast. What about a top 5 of golfers who don't wear hats?
Oh, that's a good idea. It's my turn this week, right? Yeah, it is.
Yes, it
okay,
is.
let me
It
start writing a few out.
Righto.
All right.
Okay, get
Okay.
to that.
Some more feedback here. This is from Patrick Walker. Patrick has said, G'day, Mark and Nick. I trust that all is good at Talk Birdie to me. I think it is it?
Yep,
Yep.
I think we're all friends.
Okay, all good.
Yep.
Of course.
Last week's top 5 on poor form nominated the Keegan Miguel rules stoush at the match play at Harding Park a few years ago. I reckon the rules official was our very own Steve Rintoul, but happy to be corrected.
No, it was. Yeah, it was Stevie.
Yep.
The ref should have pushed Keegan and his gobby caddy into a nearby lake and penalised them 4 shots, 2 for the player and 2 for the caddy for being total dickheads. Also, can you please tell Nick that he was missed last week at the Royal Sydney Cup?
Oh, yes,
Hey,
yes.
there
It was
you
on
go.
last week. I unfortunately couldn't make it. It's a great event.
Yeah.
2-day event. I think Lincoln tie one from Jordan Zunic, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Royal
right.
Sydney.
Steve Rintoul, just on him, he was playing the Nike Tour back in 1994 when I was playing the Nike Tour back in 1994. And he was very welcoming to me. We were the only 2 Australians playing. He was a lovely fella. And it has been interesting to watch him because he got on the tour. He didn't play his best golf when he got there, but he was on there for a little bit. But he's worked his way to the top of rulesdom,
Yep.
which is quite a hard thing to do.
It is. He was the rules official on tour when I was over there, and whenever he came along, I thought, oh, this is probably going to go in my favour here. This is
Yeah,
good. No,
yeah.
no, the rules don't work that way, but it was always nice to see Steve out in the golf course.
But I'd back Steve in.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the best. So, look, he probably doesn't have the authority to give somebody 2 shots for being a dopey sort of character.
Yeah, or 4.
But the ruling probably would have been spot on.
This week we asked Talk Birdie to be listeners to pump up their local course and tell us what they loved about it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we had a whole bunch. I'll just read out maybe 4 or 5. Adam Jackson has said, Kahuna Golf Club, it's a magic course with great people, the best kept secret in Victoria.
Yeah, and I love the driveway into the clubhouse that goes across one of the holes. Fantastic.
Okay.
And of course, home is Stuart Appleby as well.
Daz
Yes.
Blink has said Keysborough Golf Club, perfect conditions all year round.
Very good.
Yes, it's home to one of my second place finishes. 5 shots up going into the last round, and Mike Howard came screaming home and beat me by 3.
What was that in the Vic PGA or something? Yeah,
I don't know.
I played the Pro-Am there a few years ago.
Did
And
you?
I loved it. It was a great little course.
It's a great little golf course.
Really good.
You don't look remotely bitter about that, though, mate.
It still hurts me.
Yeah. Stephen Chalmers has said, the Mornington Golf Club, what a ripping place, $1 million views.
Haven't played it.
Haven't you?
No, need to.
He's not kidding about the $1 million views.
Really?
Yep. And I know there's a beautiful little par 3 they've just inserted, and you're looking straight at Melbourne. So you look, you go down, you look across the bay, or you look down, you look to the green, and then over the green, it's across the bay.
Could
and
be tens of millions of
Melbourne
dollars of views.
Skyline in the background. It is absolutely a great hole.
We had a whole bunch of these, and we'd love you to share more too. If you've got a local course that you think is just fantastic and why, tell us about it on the socials. Last one we'll read here is from Dave McIntosh. Metropolitan Golf Club ticks every box. Facilities, course, staff, members, all fantastic. It's a very special place to play.
Yes, and thankfully they're fixing up a few holes that got torched by somebody else. So well done.
Love Metro.
Yeah,
a lot of great memories there.
I used to, again, I was at Huntingdale, so we used to always, we actually had a hole cut in the fence. And once daylight savings came, we could sneak through.
Across.
And one of my great memories, I reckon I was about 14 or 15 years old, and it was a real joy to play the front nine at Metro. And I can remember making the turn because we got through the hole on the 5th green. So you'd play the 9th, and then you'd have to quickly go across to the 1st so none of the members would see you.
Ah, okay.
Of course, the pro saw me, Brian Twite. And Brian Twite, he saw me. I saw him in the pro shop, and I hit my shot. And I was halfway down the first fairway, and I heard this. And he came flying down the first on a little mini bike.
Did he really?
A tiny little mini bike. It's like a clown, the circus clowns who go on the tiny little bikes. He's going over these humps. He's coming as fast as he could around to the fence, thrown the clubs over, and ran for my life.
Wow. Have they ever thought about Huntingdale and Metropolitan amalgamating?
Many times.
Making a 36-hole facility?
And I am hearing there is some seriousness after what OCM have put on the table. So
really?
If you don't know, Huntingdale is going to be redeveloped.
Yep.
We should get Mike Cocking on to talk about it at some stage because it's such an iconic golf course in this country with hosting the Masters.
Plus they're doing so
many times. But yes, I think they're able to stand in a room together, Huntingdale and Metro, and have a adults chat about things.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
The other thing we get a lot of feedback on from time to time is how much people love the Ping Global Results. Now, I know you did an early one a little while ago, maybe 20 minutes ago. Have you got any more results for us?
I do have a few others, a couple of little sneaky ones as well, which is good. On the LPGA Tour, they were playing in Arkansas. Our own Hannah Green had a good chance to win there, but unfortunately couldn't quite close it out. She finished in 7th position. South Korea rookie Hei Ran Ryu.
That's right.
Had a 3-shot win over Swede Linnea Storm, so that was a good win for her.
There's been a lot of rookies win first year.
It's been an
first
incredible
up this year on the LPGA Tour. Yeah.
The other Aussies that did well were Grace Kim, tied for 18th, and Ping's Karis Davidson, who finished tied for 34th. She's sort of battling for her card. That top 100 gets you your card for next year. There's still several events left, so still battling.
Do you notice how he talks more about the Ping players than the others?
Have
you noticed that? Karis got a lot more than Grace then.
Yeah, she's
interesting.
It's very interesting. Who's one of your partners, Nick?
Yeah, what's that shirt say, Nick?
It might have Ping on it. I'm not sure. Hey, I've been with them my whole career. A great company. Also on the Asian Tour, Taiwan Masters, Yako Alas. I don't know if that's how you say Yako, but I'm guessing. Tough course, 4 under 1.
Just 4 under?
Just 4 under. Very rare that happens. He won by 2, but Travis Smythe finished tied for 3rd.
Yeah.
Good result for Travis again.
Have you played in Taiwan before?
Never have.
I have. The grainiest greens I've ever seen in my life.
I bet.
You had to be just a genius of trust on those greens because a putt that you would assume, a 6-footer you would assume would be right edge, could well and truly be a ball outside left.
Wow.
That's how grainy.
That is strong
craziness.
Right. One last little result which has huge significance for 2 players. They were playing the Asian Games. And
the what?
The Asian Games. Okay,
what
it's a
tour is that on?
Team format, all the Asian countries.
Yeah.
So the Republic of Korea won gold. And the reason I'm saying this is huge because 2 players, out of the 4 do not have to do military service now because they won the gold medal.
yes.
Sung Jae Im and Siwoo Kim.
Oh, 2 of the biggest names on the PGA Tour.
2 of the biggest names. Now, that avoids them from going to 2-year military service, so they don't use that as part of their career. So isn't that huge news for them?
Imagine that, Nick.
Now, that's what I call pressure, by the way.
Can you imagine? You work your whole life. You find your way onto the US Tour, like where you want to be. You win. And you win well, and then all of a sudden you've got to stop playing for 2 years and go learn how to shoot a rifle, do other kinds of. I mean,
I know.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah,
so well done to those 2.
It stops you in your tracks. It's like having a massive injury and you're out for a couple of years in that regard, as far as golf-wise.
Yeah. What would the PGA Tour do for them? Would they say, listen, you've got to come back and qualify again? Or would they actually say, listen, we understand your situation here. We'll see you in a couple.
I'm sure they have a special category, much like a medical exemption, something like that in that regard. But that's kind of the end of the Ping Global results. But this week is one of my favourite events coming up, the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship.
Oh, it's a good.
The 3-course one.
Which one is it?
St Andrews, Carnoustie, and Kingsbarns.
Kingsbarns
it's
always
a beauty,
looks great.
And it's a pro-am format. So much fun to watch.
Have you played Kingsbarns?
Yeah, man. I've played this tournament many times.
Which one's the best course?
Oh, St Andrews, of course. I mean,
is
that's
it?
hands down.
Okay.
Kingsbarns is nice.
Not as good as Carnoustie?
No. I mean, Kingsbarns is a modern links. Carnoustie, if you can shoot par or better around there, you go, I'm happy. Kingsbarns, you can tear up a bit. And then St Andrews a lot. It just depends on the weather. But it's where all the celebrities come and all that sort of thing. I actually one year played with the boss from, Elaine's boss from Seinfeld.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Mr. Peterman.
Mr. Peterman, you're kidding me.
The guy, he always used to say, Elaine?
Yeah.
and I'm going to do a top 5 later about, the guys without wearing hats, because of all that. This guy's hair never moved for 3 days, and it was blowing about 50 kilometres an hour every day.
He was a great character.
He was
Seinfeld.
good. Yeah.
He was hilarious.
John O'Hurley was his name. Lovely guy.
He was hilarious. Hey, you got to keep talking here, mate, because it is your turn.
Oh, yes.
For the top 5.
Okay, in honour of, Joe LaCava, Patrick Cantley, and all that went on at the Ryder Cup, the top 5 hatless golfers. Now,
this is good.
My number 5.
Yeah.
Played your first few years out on tour, the man with some amazing locks sitting next to me. Mark Allen, you are number 5.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw you in there.
I'm glad you found room.
Because your hair, it's pretty impressive. Number 4.
The day I had to wear that Schweppes visor was a sad day. sad day.
Number 4, I sort of refer to these in tournaments from players that I just remember. The 1984 US Open where Greg Norman lost to Fuzzy Zeller in the playoff. The blonde locks going. He was running across the 18th green on the final day when he holed that massive putt. Fuzzy back in the fairway, waving the towel. It was always, and that was just it was a great thing to remember. And it was always fun watching the Shark before he went for the Akubra. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Went for the Akubra.
And Fuzzy thought that putt was a birdie.
For birdie,
and
correct.
that's why he was waving the white towel.
Yeah.
But Greg actually got up and down. And he was in the long rough and held a 30-footer for the par.
You talk about 3 of the greatest up and downs in history: 16, 17, and 18 at Winged Foot. Greg Norman. Go back on YouTube and watch those 3.
I didn't know he got up and down at 16 and 17.
It was some of the 3 greatest up and downs you'll ever see. Anyway,
have a look at it.
Right. Number 3, 86 Masters, Jack Nicklaus. The golden locks flowing as well. It's hard to pass that one. Number 2, 1984. I'll always remember. Again, another 84. Seve Ballesteros on the 18th green at St Andrews, giving it the big punching the fist.
Hatless.
Seve looked awesome without the hat.
Yeah.
But number one. Pretty obvious choice, and number 1, European tour player for many years.
There can only be one.
One in Abu Dhabi in like 2012-ish, where he beat Rory by a shot.
One of the best swings you'll ever see.
Yes, Robert Rock. What a great name!
Now, if you don't know who Robert Rock is,
he should have named our names list.
Where was that's right.
I know.
If you've never seen Robert Rock, just picture a little Lego man haircut, and that's exactly what it was like. It was the most perfect little Lego man look you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, and an absolute flusher. Sorry you couldn't make number 1, Mark, but you made the 5 anyway.
I'm happy you found room for me.
And by the way, thank you to Franco Caruso, who suggested a top 5 golfers who don't wear hats.
Nice work.
Yeah,
nice work. All right, it's time for the masterclass. So, Nick, I kept a really close eye on all the players at the Ryder Cup this week. And one of the things that I noticed is that none of them, not one of them, under pressure stopped at impact. But when I play with amateurs, I get the sense that a lot of them feel like their swing stops at impact once they've made connection. Now, if you hit a left shot every once in a while, you don't know why it goes left, or a big pull. So if you're a left-handed, obviously a big pull, and you don't know why. A lot of the time it's because you stop. It's because you stop moving at impact or not long after, and the club just goes slinging past. Now, I can remember for the first time, I reckon, when I started playing a few little European events here and there, I would listen to the European coaches talking about their first move with the left shoulder, and the left shoulder would once it goes down in the backswing, their first move that a lot of players focused on was the left shoulder would go up and to the left. And if you do this, it takes your whole body with you. It takes it with you. And it makes your left leg straighten or your lead leg straighten. It does all these things. So if you are somebody who feels like, have a think about it, that there's not that much effort after impact and your shots are big pulls, then this one could really help you. The left shoulder or the lead shoulder, once it goes down in the backswing, the first move is it goes back up and to the left, just like it would if you know, the old drill when you put a shaft on your shoulders and you just go backwards and through. Just feel what that left shoulder does and see if you can make the same move when you're actually hitting the golf ball.
That'll definitely keep you moving.
That'll keep you moving. No doubt about that. So if you are moving, don't bother. It's not the tip for you. But if you're stuck down at the bottom or if you feel like you get stuck every once in a while, have a crack, see what happens.
Yeah.
Great fun, guys.
That was a big show, Dan.
It was a long one.
Can we go? How long do we go for? Do we get to an hour? Do we crack 60 minutes for the first ever time?
Not quite an hour, but not far off.
Right.
Okay.
A big thank you to Sam Colosimo and the Golf Clearance Outlet. Like I said, they're in Perth, they are in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, and you can catch them online as well, golfclearanceoutlet.com.au. And, of course, Nick.
A big thanks to Ping Golf, of course, and I'm going to try and stop you from having a fight in the car park later on. Thanks for a good show.
You'll have to hold me back.
Well, that's Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen's podcast, Talk Birdie to Me. And if you're looking for some new clubs, whether you're a male or a female, Ping are the best in the business and they'll help you play your best. Contact your local golf shop or professional and they'll sort you out with a fitting. If you can, we'd love it if you could rate and review the podcast wherever you listen and tell a friend about it. Word of mouth is the best recommendation. Talk Birdie to Me's executive producer is Dan Bradley at Kaizen Media and sound design, Daryl Misson at loudzebra.com. Guys, just thinking, talking earlier on about Ludwig Åberg, the pronunciation, and obviously the pronunciations of the European guys are a little hard. Do you think the European guys doing podcasts in, Belgium or somewhere sit around saying, "How do you pronounce Adam Scott?" Nico, Mark.
No,
I saw a bit on social media. I think it might have been Norwegian commentary of Victor Hovland teeing off and how excited they were and all that. I mean, I'd love to get some audio of that we could listen to at some point because they were going nuts. Remember when Victor won the FedEx Cup?
Yeah.
And the screams from these guys. One of them I used to play with on the European tour, but
they went nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
No, exactly. No, you're probably right. Adam Scott is a tough one.
That's very hard.
Yeah.